Brooklyn, 2:01 a.m. The night pressed heavy against Miller's diner, rain slipping down the windows in thin silver lines. Grace Sullivan wiped the counter for the 10th time, trying to ignore the ache in her shoulders, until she noticed the man in the corner booth watching the door instead of his coffee. Ethan Kane, tailored suit, scar along the jaw, the kind of presence that didn't belong in a place built for truckers and night shift ghosts. When Grace approached with the pot, he spoke without lifting his eyes. "Stay close to the counter," he muttered. "Not to the windows." "Why?" she asked, tightening her grip. "Because someone out there wants me dead. And they're not patient." Before she could respond, a sharp crack split the glass, a warning shot slicing through the neon glow. Grace flinched as Ethan rose halfway from the booth, eyes gone cold. "This is it," he said. "Move." And in the breath before chaos erupted, Grace realized she had stepped into a world she was never meant to see. If this opening pulls you in, like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more gripping stories. The moment the window exploded, Ethan Kane grabbed Grace by the wrist and pulled her behind the counter. Shot after shot cracked through the diner's walls, sending shards of glass raining across the floor. Grace's breath trembled, but her hands didn't freeze. She reached for a fallen metal tray and angled it like a shield over a terrified busboy crouched nearby. "They're here for you," she whispered. "They won't leave with me," Ethan replied, checking the angle of the front door. His voice was steady, too steady for a man being hunted. The attackers kicked the door completely off its hinges, boots crunching through broken glass. One of them barked out, "Kane, come out and face us like a man." Grace flinched at the surge of hatred in the man's voice. It wasn't ordinary anger. It was venom, personal, burning, targeted. And when the gunman spat, "We don't want your kind ruling this city," she understood this wasn't just about Ethan. This was about power, race, territory, and the kind of bitterness that festers in men who think the world owes them more space than they deserve. Ethan leaned close to her, voice barely above a breath. "When I move, stay behind me. Don't argue. They'll use you as leverage." Grace didn't nod, didn't speak. She simply placed her trembling hand over his for a second, a wordless agreement. Then Ethan stepped out. The gunfire paused. The leader of the crew, a thick-necked man named Travis Hargrove, grinned. Travis wore hatred the way other men wore cologne. Loud, suffocating, unmistakable. "Well, look who finally crawled out," Travis taunted. The half-breed hero himself. Ethan didn't react. But Grace saw how his jaw shifted, just slightly, as if swallowing a memory he'd locked away years ago. "What do you want, Travis?" Ethan asked. "You off my streets," Travis sneered. "You think you can walk around here, opening businesses, protecting people, acting like you belong? Not in my city." Grace felt something rotten coil inside her. She had lived that same rejection. Quiet, subtle, disguised as jokes or harmless comments. But coming from a man with a gun, it became something monstrous. Ethan stood tall. "This city doesn't belong to you." Travis smirked. "It does tonight." Before he could raise his weapon, Grace hurled the metal tray. It slammed into Travis's forearm, knocking his shot wide. Ethan lunged forward, tackling the nearest gunman and disarming him with quick, decisive force. Chaos erupted. Grace crawled to the busboy and helped him escape through the back hallway. When she returned, a third attacker spotted her and advanced. "Don't you move, sweetheart," he said. Grace's voice cracked. "I'm not your sweetheart." She grabbed a coffee pot, scalding hot from the burner, and smashed it into his wrist. The man screamed, dropping his gun. Ethan used that opening to knock him out cold. But Travis had already retreated outside, shouting into a phone. "Bring her! Bring the girl!" Ethan's head snapped toward Grace. "We have to go. Right now." He dragged her toward the back exit just as another truck screeched to a stop outside. Men in dark jackets spilled out. They weren't here for Ethan anymore. They were here for her. "Why me?" Grace gasped. "Because you helped me," Ethan said. And Travis hates anyone who stands in the way of what he thinks he deserves. They ran into the alley, footsteps pounding behind them. Grace stumbled, but Ethan caught her before she fell. His voice softened, just barely, like the edge of a hardened blade warming to her presence. "You're braver than you think." They sprinted through the cold Brooklyn night, weaving through alleys until they reached Ethan's car. Tires screeched as they sped away, but the trembling in Grace's chest didn't fade. "Who is he?" she asked. "Travis." Ethan exhaled sharply. "A bully who grew into a man with too much anger and not enough conscience. He's hated me since we were kids, because my mother was black, because I got out of the neighborhood while he didn't, because he thinks leadership belongs to people who look like him." Grace stared at him. "This is about racism." "It always was." Grace felt a familiar sting, unspoken, quiet, the way prejudice creeps into corners of life where joy should sit. Ethan could see the recognition in her face. "You've lived it too," he said. She nodded. "Too many times." Their shared understanding softened the space between them, until a truck slammed into their rear bumper. The car spun. Grace screamed. Ethan fought the wheel, metal grinding against asphalt, sparks streaking behind them. When the car finally stopped, they were surrounded. Travis climbed down from the truck bed, laughing. "End of the line, Kane." Ethan stepped out, battered but steady. Travis raised his gun. "You're done polluting my neighborhood." Grace shoved the door open and ran toward Ethan before she even understood her own movement. "Stop," she shouted. "He's done nothing to you." "He exists," Travis snarled. "That's enough." His finger tightened on the trigger. But before he could fire, a second set of headlights burst through the darkness. Police headlights. Ethan's friend Marcus, a community officer, jumped out. "Drop the weapon, Hargrove. Now." Travis froze. Rage twisted his face. "You called them." "No," Ethan said calmly. "Someone inside the diner did. People you thought were too scared to speak." In that moment, Grace saw something shift. Fear, humiliation, all the ugliness. Travis had built his identity on collapsing beneath the weight of accountability. Officers surrounded him. Marcus stepped forward. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, hate crime enhancement, unlawful possession, assault. Want me to keep going?" Travis lunged, screaming. "This is NY City." Marcus forced him to the ground. "Not anymore." As Travis was cuffed, Grace stood beside Ethan, shaking from adrenaline. "He's really going to jail," she whispered. "Not just jail," Marcus said. "He'll be charged federally. Hate crime laws carry real weight. He won't see daylight for a long time." For the first time that night, Grace felt air return to her lungs. Full, clean, hopeful. Ethan turned to her, voice low. "You saved my life. Twice." Grace let out a breath that trembled with relief and fear and something warmer she couldn't yet name. "You saved mine first. And I'll keep doing it," he said softly. Behind them, Travis screamed curses as he was dragged into the police van. His power gone, his cruelty exposed, his hatred caged where it belonged. Grace watched the doors slam shut. For the first time tonight, she allowed herself a small, tired smile. Justice, real justice, had finally landed on the right man. And this was only the beginning. When the police van disappeared around the corner, the street finally fell quiet. Grace stood with Ethan beneath the flickering streetlight, the cold air carrying the last echo of Travis's rage. For the first time since the night began, she felt something shift inside her. Not relief, not triumph, but clarity. She had spent years keeping her head down, convincing herself that silence was safer. Tonight proved the opposite. Speaking up, stepping forward, choosing courage. It changed everything. Ethan glanced over, a faint, tired smile touching his face. "You didn't run," he said. "I'm done running," she replied. And she meant it. Not just for him but for herself. As dawn crept over Brooklyn, the diner's broken windows shimmered with soft light, like scars turning into something that no longer hurt. Grace watched it, understanding that truth had weight, but it also had power. And sometimes, that power started with one person refusing to step back. If this story moved you, tap like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales to help the channel grow.